Ah, Much Ado About Nothing. That favorite Shakespearean romantic comedy. That perennial classic that has the distinction of not one, but two major film adaptations that are each very different from one another. The classical feeling one, directed by Kenneth Branagh, and the modern dress black and white version, directed by Joss Whedon. It also has the distinction of being built on lies. This is Much Ado About Nothing and fake news. Much Ado About Nothing is an apt title indeed. The play is literally about big deals being made of lies. The plot hinges on two major whoppers. The first, and the one the play is known for, is the lie that Beatrice is in love with Benedick, and Benedick is in love with Beatrice. This lie is interesting because it causes itself to become true. It is both a lie and a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is untrue when it is uttered, but the same statement would be true the following day, but only because the lie was spoken in the first place. And the lie only works because it feels like it should be true. Beatrice and Benedick obviously have strong feelings about each other prior to the lie, even though the feelings don't look anything like love. They're obviously well matched in their ability to insult each other. And because it feels like it should be true, and because Beatrice and Benedick each trust the source of the lie, they fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And their lives are forever changed, arguably for the better. The next lie, though it's not as big as the two big ones, is Don John's lie to Claudio during the mask, suggesting that Don Pedro is wooing Hero for himself, not for Claudio. And Claudio falls for it immediately, but the effects of the lie are short-lived, because Don Pedro is a more trustworthy source than Don John, and can produce evidence to the contrary. So this lie I will call a small lie, about which only a little ado is made. The next lie, which is the third lie mentioned, but I will call the second big lie, the next nothing about which much ado is made, is quite different from the first. For one thing, it comes from the play's antagonists, while the first came from the play's protagonists. Perhaps more importantly, it comes from a place of malice, and with the intent to harm, while the first big lie came from a place of love and joy, with the intent to help. The lie in question is Don John's lie that Hero is unfaithful. It's further different from the first lie for two reasons. One, it doesn't feel like it should be true. Two, the source is not trustworthy. Unlike the first lie, Don Pedro and Claudio don't take the lie at face value. They need to see proof, but proof they see, fabricated though it is. And it's worth a side note here that Shakespeare did not actually write a scene where Claudio sees the proof, even though many directors, including Kenneth Branagh, stage one. But whether we, the audience, see the scene or our imaginations fill the gaps, Claudio gets his proof, and the action Claudio takes as a result of it brings harm to Hero and to Claudio himself. And the harm would perhaps be permanent if not for yet another lie, that Hero is dead. This lie is much like the first, told with the intent to help, believed because of the trust between the conveyor and the hearer, and it feels like it should be true. But unlike the first big lie, which is intended to bring only joy, this one is meant to bring pain to Claudio, and it succeeds. Now, before I go any further, I want to make it clear that I like this play a lot. It's funny, and the characters are endearing, and the plot is relatable, and the comedy works, and it remains remarkably relevant in a 21st century context. But y'all, it would be irresponsible for me not to point something out. This is a play about lies that, on a surface level, does not overtly condemn the act of lying. In fact, 2 out of the 4 aforementioned lies in the play come from the protagonists and lead to a positive outcome. Even the title is agnostic about it, simply indicating that lies lead to much ado. Indeed. And I find an agnostic read about lying to be particularly problematic today because of the context in which we live, which I will, for the sake of clarity, call the fake news era. Now, I do not wish to say that all news today is fake. Far from it. Most legitimate journalists are doing excellent work that provides a great service. But I cannot ignore that actual fake news was a major factor in the outcome of our latest presidential election. That we have a president who regularly accuses legitimate mainstream news sources of peddling fake news. That many people I know and love are more likely to believe obviously and demonstrably fake news over actual news. That we have a president who unapologetically and frequently shares falsehoods his followers believe because they feel like they should be true. And when fake news is becoming more and more convincing, thanks to Photoshop and other digital technologies. And let's face it, the lies in Much Ado About Nothing are fake news. They are reports that are false, and the hearers believe them and act on them. And like Much Ado About Nothing, fake news today sometimes comes with the intent to help or bolster a cause or politician, and sometimes fake news comes with malicious intent, with the aim to inflict harm or sow discord. Sometimes we trust the news sources, and sometimes we don't, without evidence. And, like the first big lie, fake news can cause itself to be true, or tries to. And so, in this context, the surface agnosticism about lying in Much Ado About Nothing is rather problematic for me. But fortunately, there is one key plot point in this play that tips the scales, where Shakespeare seems to suggest that lies, even the positive ones, can lead to bad ends. A moment where 2 of the lies converge and have the capacity to do permanent damage to our protagonists. But the plot point is fleeting and does not lead to its potentially tragic end thanks to the revelation of a truth. The plot point I'm referring to is
kill Claudio.
In this moment, Benedick agrees to the tragic action of killing his friend. And what gets him to this moment is the confluence of the effects of the 2 big lies. The first big lie gives Benedick affection for Beatrice, who is making the deadly request, and the second big lie leads to the actions for which Benedick would kill Claudio. This moment could not happen without both of the 2 big lies, and Benedick's challenge to Claudio would be upheld if the second big lie was not discovered by Dogberry's crew. Let me rephrase. It is reasonable to assume that if the truth about Hero never came out, that the lies in this play, including a well-intentioned one, would lead to Claudio's death at the hands of Benedick. And such tragedy as the result of fake news is not far-fetched. It wasn't long ago in the real world that fake news led to a man firing a gun in a pizza place that he believed, thanks to fake news, was participating in child slavery. Much ado indeed. See, the problem with lies, even well-intentioned ones, is that we have no control over how people will respond to them, and it can lead to the harm of innocent people. So what should we do? Well, if we can take advice from Much Ado About Nothing, here are some thoughts. Like Dogberry, seek out liars and hold them accountable. Like Claudio in the mask scene, Be open to evidence that disputes the lies. Like Benedict, be open to changing your actions once the truth is revealed. And unlike so many of the characters in this play, don't spread fake news. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and share and subscribe. And if you have thoughts about this play or about lying or this video, please comment below and let me know. Fare you well. I commend you to your own content.